An enormous African rock python is constricting a struggling giraffe in the middle of a dirt path in the Tsavo savanna. The scene is one of primal, terrifying power. Under the vast pale blue sky of the plains, surrounded by golden grasses and the sparse shade of fever trees, a life is being squeezed into silence. The python, a masterpiece of evolution, is a thick, muscular river of mottled brown and olive scales that glint under the midday sun. Its body, as thick as a warrior's thigh, is wrapped in a series of inescapable coils around the giraffe's torso. With every desperate, rasping breath the giraffe takes, the python's grip tightens, a methodical and patient application of force. The giraffe's patchy, tawny hide is contorted, its long legs kicking out in violent but futile spasms, sending clouds of red dust into the hot, still air. Its cries, once sharp with terror, have now become weak, guttural groans of agony and exhaustion. The giraffe's eyes are wide, white with panic, reflecting a struggle that is all but lost. This is nature at its most raw and unforgiving, a silent, brutal ballet on a lonely stretch of the Tsavo Plains. But this terrifying moment wasn't a random act of misfortune. It was the climax of a desperate journey that began hours earlier with a mother's instinct and a promise she had to keep. The day had begun in the soft golden light of dawn near the banks of the Galana River. The air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and wild sage. A herd of giraffes moved peacefully across the Tsavo Plains, their patchwork coats of tawny and cream a striking, graceful spectacle against the golden landscape. Among them, a mother giraffe kept her new calf close, a fragile, long-legged creature that mirrored her every step. But the tranquility of the savanna is a fragile thing. In a sudden explosion of dust and sound, a pride of lions erupted from their hiding spot in the tall grass. Chaos reigned. The air was filled with the thunder of hooves and the deep, terrifying roars of the hunt. The herd scattered in a blind panic, a torrent of tawny and cream flowing in every direction. In the confusion, the mother giraffe was separated from her calf. She called out, a series of frantic, low moans, but her cries were lost in the pandemonium. The herd galloped on, driven by the singular instinct of survival, leaving the danger far behind. But the mother giraffe slowed, then stopped. She stood trembling, her heart pounding against her ribs as she watched the herd disappear over a rise. Every instinct screamed for her to follow, to seek the safety of the group. Yet a stronger, deeper instinct held her back, the bond with her child. Making a decision that defied self-preservation, she turned away from safety and back toward danger. She began to retrace her steps, her senses on high alert, her long neck lowered as she searched for the unique, faint scent of her calf. She moved along the edge of a lonely dirt path in the Tsavo savanna, the same path where her fate awaited. Every rustle of the wind in the fever trees sounded like a threat. Every distant shadow seemed to be a predator. She was completely alone, a solitary figure in the vast and indifferent wilderness of Tsavo. Driven only by the hope of finding her lost calf, she scanned the horizon for the familiar shape of a lion or hyena. Unaware that the deadliest threats are often the ones you never see coming, the ones that wait with a patience born of millennia, her focus was entirely on the path ahead. Searching for a sign of her calf, she was completely unaware that she herself was being watched by an ancient predator, a rock python, whose patience was about to pay off. Hidden in a dense thicket of bushes just feet from the dirt path in the Tsavo savanna, the African rock python lay perfectly still. It had been there for 3 days, a living statue of potential energy. Hunger was a cold, slow burn in its belly. It didn't need to see. It felt the world through vibrations in the ground and tasted it with a flick of its forked tongue. It had sensed the distant thunder of the panicked giraffe herd, but it waited. It knew a straggler, lost or wounded, might follow. Patience was its greatest ally. When the mother giraffe paused on the path, raising her long neck to sniff the air for any trace of her calf's scent, she presented the perfect opportunity. For that single, fatal moment, she was still. The python's muscles, coiled for days, bunched and then released in a single explosive movement. It was a blur of speed and power. Before the mother giraffe could even register the threat, the python's immense body struck her side, knocking her off her feet with a heavy, sickening thud. A piercing shriek of terror and pain tore from the giraffe's throat as the snake's body immediately began to wrap around her. The first coil was a shock, the second a prison, the third a death sentence. The dust she kicked up in her fall began to settle around the life-and-death struggle. Miles away, two Mijikenda tribespeople, Kofi and Zuri, were on a routine patrol along the edges of their ancestral lands near the Galana River. They were discussing the day's tasks, their voices low and rhythmic, when the giraffe's cry pierced the air. It wasn't the sound of a simple warning or call, it was the unmistakable, high-pitched scream of an animal in mortal peril. They exchanged a brief, knowing glance, their faces set with determination. No words were needed. Kofi, gripping his spear, and Zuri, clutching her carved staff, immediately turned toward the sound, their feet swift across the uneven terrain of the Tsavo savanna. Zuri's mind raced. An animal that size under such pressure didn't have minutes, they had seconds. As they crested a small hill, the scene before them stole their breath. The giant python, its victory seemingly complete, squeezing the life from the magnificent giraffe trapped in its embrace. Stopping a safe distance away, Kofi and Zuri moved with purpose, their steps silent and practiced. They had witnessed countless struggles in the wild, but the sheer size of this python and the desperate state of the giraffe sent a jolt of urgency through them. They carried no weapons of harm, only long, smooth wooden staffs designed for leverage and distraction, and Zuri's basket of herbs, a gift from their ancestors' wisdom. Their approach was cautious, a silent dance of expertise guided by their duty to protect the balance of the land. Kofi and Zuri knew a panicked move could make the python constrict even harder or cause it to strike at them. They enacted their plan with practiced coordination. Kofi, the more experienced with pythons, circled to the rear of the tangled mass, his staff held low and steady. Kofi targeted the python's tail, hoping to find the end of the coil and begin the Herculean task of unwrapping it. He pushed the staff under the thick muscle and heaved, his own muscles straining. It was like trying to bend a bar of solid steel. The python barely registered his effort. Meanwhile, Zuri took the front, her staff poised and her eyes locked on the python's head. Zuri's task was arguably more dangerous, to distract the python's head. She used her staff to gently but firmly tap the ground near the snake's head, then its body, trying to break its intense focus. But the ancient predator was locked in its primal purpose. It ignored Zuri's prodding, its small, dark eyes fixed, its entire being concentrated on the act of constriction. The giraffe's struggles had now faded to mere twitches. Its head was thrown back, its mouth agape, but no sound came out. Kofi and Zuri's plan was failing. A grim look passed between them. They were losing. In a split-second decision, Zuri turned and sprinted back to her woven satchel, left near a fever tree. She fumbled through it, past dried herbs and a small gourd of water, and grabbed a small clay vial of pungent herbal oil, a traditional Mijikenda remedy. It was an unconventional last-resort tool. Zuri ran back as Kofi kept up the pressure on the python's body. The logic was simple. The sharp, acrid scent of the herbal oil was a powerful irritant to a snake's incredibly sensitive mouth and nasal passages. It wouldn't cause lasting harm, but its immediate discomfort could override even the strongest predatory instinct. Crouching low, Zuri carefully poured a generous amount of the oil onto the ground right in front of the python's snout. The snake flinched. The pungent smell filled the air. The python hissed, a deep, guttural sound of annoyance. For the first time, its head moved, trying to get away from the irritant. It worked. Confused and aggravated, the snake's powerful coils began to loosen, its concentration broken. As the thick coils slowly unwound, the python retreated into the tall grass, and the giraffe lay gasping on the ground. The immediate danger was over, but the fight for her life had just entered a new critical phase. With a final resentful flick of its tail, the giant python disappeared into the safety of the Tsavo savanna. A powerful force of nature deterred, but not defeated. Kofi and Zuri wasted no time. They rushed to the mother giraffe's side. She lay on the dusty path, her entire body trembling, taking in huge, shuddering gasps of air. Her patchy coat was dark with sweat and streaked with dirt. Kofi and Zuri spoke to her in low, calming tones, their expertise softening into pure compassion. They performed a careful examination, their hands moving gently over her ribcage, feeling for the telltale signs of fractures. A break would likely be a death sentence out here. After a tense minute, Kofi looked up at Zuri and shook his head with a sigh of relief. Deep, painful bruising for certain, but no broken bones. Zuri applied a soothing herbal paste from her basket to the giraffe's minor abrasions and administered a dose of calming herbal infusion to help with the swelling and shock. Then they backed away, giving her the space and time she needed to process the ordeal and regain her strength. Before she was ready to leave, they fitted a lightweight tracking band around her neck, crafted from woven fibers and embedded with a small, traditional Mijikenda charm imbued with ancestral blessings. This was more than a practical tool. It was a token of hope, a way for them to know if their desperate intervention would have the ending they all wished for. Slowly, unsteadily, the mother giraffe rose to her feet. She stood for a long moment, then turned and began walking, her steps weak but determined, back in the direction of her search. 2 days passed. Kofi and Zuri tracked her movements using the charm's subtle signals, guided by the wisdom of their elders, watching her path weave across the Tsavo plains. Then they consulted the village seer, who cast a ritual to locate her. The seer's vision revealed a glimpse of the savannah, and then they saw it. The vision focused on 2 figures standing near a watering hole by the Galana River. One was the mother giraffe, identifiable by her tracking band. Standing beside her, nuzzling against her side, was a small, fragile-looking giraffe calf. The reunion had happened. The mother had not given up, and her courage, combined with Kofi and Zuri's intervention, had restored the bond that was so violently broken. The seer's vision showed them standing quietly together, a small island of peace in the vast Tsavo wilderness, a testament to a love that had defied lions, snakes, and the very laws of the wild. The bond between a mother and her child is a force of nature. If this story moved you, consider supporting organizations that protect wildlife and empower guardians like Kofi and Zuri. And don't forget to stay connected for more stories that bridge us to the incredible animal world. What tale of the wild should we share next?